You have got to be kidding me. This is Sega Masters. Hey, it's our old pal Alex Kidd, finally back in action on the Master System. Today we are indeed covering the third appearance of Sega's franchise icon in the Western market, Alex Kidd HighTech World. But you might be wondering who all these people standing behind him actually are. Believe it or not, that's a very good question. If you remember, Alex Kidd made his debut in the action-adventure title Miracle World, which aimed to do more than simply be yet another Super Mario-style platformer. It mixed a number of adventure games elements in with the arcade-like action, such as a world map to track your progress, equipable items you can find or purchase at shops, a few puzzles to solve, and other features. Granted, it contained a number of rough edges, along with a somewhat surprising difficulty level, but that didn't stop Miracle World from becoming something of a beloved classic to Sega diehards. However, Sega could never figure out how to produce a proper follow-up to Miracle World to really help Alex become a video game superstar. The first Alex Kidd sequel to appear on Sega's 8-bit console was released exclusively in Japan, the forgettable BMX Trial, which was a simple driving game that has you just steering Alex down a path while avoiding obstacles and hostile racers, and it required the Sega paddle controller, which also was never released outside of Japan. Gamers in the Western market weren't really missing much. Then came the second Alex game to appear on the Master System worldwide, The Lost Stars, which was a home conversion of a simple coin-op platformer that Alex starred in, where all you did was run forward and jump, much like Wonder Boy. It wasn't terrible per se, but it felt like a letdown compared to what Miracle World offered, and was seen as a step in the wrong direction for Sega's flagship character. That brings us to HighTech World, Alex's third go-around on the Master System in the US and Europe. Those hoping this entry finally offers a proper follow-up to Miracle World will be disappointed, as it takes the series in yet another different direction, and not a good one to be honest. The card opens with this intro showing Alex learning from one of his pals about a rad new video arcade that just opened up, the titular HighTech World, and Alex gets excited at the chance to try out all the fun Sega games it supposedly contains. Trouble is, the only map that shows how to actually get there was somehow torn into 8 pieces, which have been scattered about. So Alex must first reassemble the map, and only then can he make his way to the arcade. And he has until 5 o'clock to get to HighTech World, as that's when it closes. However, instead of arcade-like action as in the other games of the Alex Kidd line, you find yourself engaging in a stripped-down Sierra-style graphic adventure quest, the second time we've seen this game style utilized on this series, the other being Alf, which we covered a few episodes back. The 8 pieces of the map are scattered around this strange castle that Alex supposedly calls home, and finding them requires you to scour the castle from top to bottom and explore the various rooms you come across, either investigating the items contained in each room for clues, or talking with whomever happens to be in there, hoping they point you in the right direction on your quest. At least you have a simple interface to navigate this game with no convoluted menus to worry about, like in other adventure games. But it won't take you long to wonder exactly why Alex is suddenly living in a castle straight out of feudal Japan, other than the anachronisms. Even more concerning, since when did he live with people who look nothing like him and all dressed like samurai, including this couple who are billed as Alex's parents? None of this fits into the mythology that Miracle World attempted to create. The truth is, this card didn't start out as an Alex Kidd game at all. In reality, HighTech World is a rebranded version of a cartridge Sega released for the Mark III in Japan 2 years earlier, and Mitsuhime, which was actually based on an anime program running on Japanese television at the time. Adapted from a long-running manga series, the Mitsuhime animated show was broadcast from 1986 to 1987, and chronicled the various adventures of a tomboy princess in not quite feudal Japan who got into all sorts of situations, much to the chagrin of her proper regal family. For those curious, the cartridge originally centered around Emitsu's desire to escape from her castle home and visit a bakery, which also required her to first collect 8 pieces of a map. The cartridge presented her journey by haphazardly fusing 2 different game types together. There's one part adventure quest where you interact with the other characters from the show and solve puzzles, and one part action platforming where you battle ninjas in a forest, which I'll assume made sense to fans of the program. Sadly, neither game type is done very well here. So what led Sega to rebrand this card as an Alex Kidd game for the US and Europe is anyone's guess. Sega probably figured if Nintendo could convert a Japanese television-related title into a Super Mario sequel for the Western market, why not do the same thing for Alex Kidd? However, they ignored how the switch from Doki Doki Panic to Super Mario Bros. 2 wasn't quite as random as was once believed, and is chronicled elsewhere. Sufficient to say, Doki Doki Panic was already a solid Mario-esque title that Nintendo improved into a great game for the North American audience with a few enhancements, including some touches that helped Mario and friends feel more at home in this game world. And Mitsuhime, on the other hand, was far from a great game, yet for whatever reason Sega saw fit to choose this title to shoehorn their franchise icon into. Not only was the gameplay left alone, flaws and all, but other than some token changes to the sprites and dialogue, the programmers did a lazy job of changing the game world into something where the protagonist would naturally fit in. Despite what the manual might claim, all the kanji banners, folding screens, and the fact that everyone except our hero is clad in traditional oriental robes still make it obvious Alex is living in a not quite feudal Japanese castle for no real reason. Can you imagine Sega dropping their current mascot into a random setting where he didn't belong nowadays? Regardless of the low-effort localization, your mission is to help Alex pass the 4 parts of the game to reach HighTech World, all before the in-game clock reaches 1700 hours. However, the search for the map pieces takes up the bulk of the total gameplay, and while a few of them can be found by simply looking in the right places, obtaining most of them require you to complete a certain task or solve some sort of puzzle. As is the case with other adventure-style quests, much of your time is spent conversing with the castle's various inhabitants to get some sort of clue or objective to complete, then going out to complete it before reporting back to them, hoping to earn a piece of the map as a result. It all gets repetitive and boring before too long, but the programmers at least try to add a touch of charm to the gameplay by giving each character their own personality, and a few humorous moments can be found throughout your quests. Of course, puzzles themselves can make or break any adventure game, and HighTech World is no different. In fact, the puzzles are where this cartridge falls apart since they can range from weird to downright unfair. Obtaining one map piece in particular requires you to pass this general knowledge test your tutor Mary forces you to take. Oddly enough, it unfolds as an actual school test as you're forced to recall history, math, anatomy, and for whatever reason, the names of the levels in Space Harrier. And you need to get all the questions right in order to earn the map piece. Unless you have that knowledge off the top of your head, you'll probably be stumbling through this quiz, though you can take it repeatedly until you pass. If the puzzles themselves weren't bad enough, actually solving them can be more difficult than they should be since some of the solutions are not entirely obvious or even make any sense. And the cart does very little to steer you toward the answers, often leaving you to figure them out on your own. For example, when you talk to James after passing your test, he offers you a map piece but it turns out to be charred, and touching it in its current form will cause it to disintegrate, leaving you unable to complete the game. You're given no hints on how to handle this problem, and the manual isn't much help either. Unless you had a good walkthrough handy, you'd probably never deduce that you need to use this telephone to contact your pal Rockwell, who just happens to have a way to restore the map piece to normal. At least the cart provides a phone book for you to look up his number. Not to mention after Rockwell agrees to help you out, you have to actually meet him in the correct room after a certain amount of time has passed in order to attain the magic restorer. Collecting some of the map pieces do involve repeatedly exiting and entering seemingly empty rooms until someone hopefully appears to give you a hand. Not only do you have to do this more than once, the cart never makes it clear which specific rooms you'll eventually find someone in. You also have to keep the time limit in mind during your scavenger hunt. And since the clock is advanced 5 minutes every time you enter a room, you could end up wasting a lot of time if it's not the correct location. Other required tasks including finding a certain library book someone read, fixing a seemingly broken clock with the aid of a miniature ladder, and even guessing the names of these 6 servants in the correct order. Hopefully you paid attention to the various flyers posted all around the castle, since that's one of the few times this card actually throws you some hints. If all that wasn't enough for you, the game can actually end abruptly for making incorrect moves which seem innocent enough at first. In one such instance, you might come across a set of armor and Alex will ask if you want to try it on. Should you do so, Alex will cry about being unable to move and you're suddenly given a game over and booted back to the title screen, being forced to start completely over. Same thing if you turn on a broken computer, go down a set of stairs that turns out to be broken, or even bug your so-called parents one too many times. As you can only save your progress after you complete this stage, just one mistake will force you to do everything all over again, puzzles and all, even if you're close to having all 8 pieces. This whole exercise comes off as tiresome and frustrating, with too much guesswork and trial and error required to solve most of the puzzles. Unless you forget, this is just the first part of the complete HighTech World experience. There are 3 other levels following this one, and the entire game needs to be completed before the clock reaches 1700 hours, so you need to be sure to leave enough time to get through them as well. Assuming you somehow persevere and collect all 8 pieces of the map, you're not quite in the clear as the game decides to throw up one more roadblock for you to overcome. This guard, who just happens to be named Bob, won't let you out through the front door despite your regal standing, so now you need to go hunting for an alternate way to slip out of the castle. That's accomplished by finding this hang glider that allows you to fly your way to freedom, and you finally advance to the next stage. You're even given a password that allows you to bypass the castle segment, the only password you'll receive in this adventure, but at least you'll never have to solve all those puzzles again. After this brief intermission where Paul lays out the remainder of what awaits Alex in his journey toward HighTech World, the game suddenly transitions into an arcade-style sequence, as Alex braves a force infected with malicious ninja to reach the next town, just as Amitsu Hime have to. While he doesn't have his famed shell core punch from Miracle to defend himself, Alex is armed with an unlimited supply of shuriken to take out the ninja firing stars and bombs back at him. And that's all you do here, throw stars and collect the gold pieces floating about. Granted, it's nice you finally get to do something other than walking around talking to people, yet this basic platforming action manages to be just as frustrating as solving puzzles. Even though his shots have a good range and can even deflect enemy projectiles, Alex can only fire them straight ahead, while the ninja have no trouble shooting at him from various angles at different heights. As you might expect, one hit will knock Alex silly, forcing you to restart this rather lengthy level from the beginning. And falling into the water is also somehow fatal. At least the vibrantly colored levels are nice to look at. The environments are nothing special but decent for what they are, and the detailed sprites do show off some smooth animation. While the upbeat music is nothing memorable either, it's certainly better than the soundtracks in many other Master System carts, especially ones we covered in recent episodes. Should you survive your sojourn through the forest, you arrive at this town for another graphic adventure segment, one that's thankfully much shorter than the castle. The town sports quite a few shops to check out, each of which offer a small selection of items to purchase with the gold pieces you might have collected during your fight for survival in the forest. Your goal in this level is to obtain a travel pass, as the guard at the edge of town won't let you proceed through the checkpoint without one. You might think you have to buy and sell items from the shop and complete some errands to ultimately receive a pass, but that's actually not the case. The truth is, none of the items you can buy will do anything to help you out. In fact, some of the wares are actually bad and will lead to you getting arrested by the checkpoint guard, resulting in a game over. That also means the gold pieces you worked so hard to collect in the previous level turn out to be useless, making you wonder why you bothered. All you really need to do is to go to this altar and pray to some deities 100 times to receive the pass. That's right, 100 times, which gets monotonous and aggravating in short order to say the least. And it's the only thing you're required to do to pass this level, making you wonder why the rest of this town even needs to exist. It just feels like the programmers ran out of ideas after putting most of their effort into the castle segment, and the latter 3 levels of HighTech World are just there as a result. There are supposedly other ways to obtain the pass, but they mainly involve being at the right place at the right time for a random citizen to lend you their pass, which again you'd only know by using a walkthrough. No matter how you go about obtaining the pass, once you do have it in hand, the guard will let you proceed on your way to HighTech World. But first there's one more level of ninja killing to endure, only this time the forest creatures have decided to get in on the action, and dealing with them is just as annoying as the ninja. Pass this level and you've finally reached HighTech World and have completed the game. All you get with this cartridge is just 4 poorly done levels that can all be completed in around 15 minutes if you know the solutions. And your reward is a rather underwhelming ending that simply shows Alex playing what looks like an Outrun arcade machine. In conclusion, HighTech World is a pretty poor game. Granted, it's not as horrible as Alf, but this cart still ranks at the bottom tier of Master System releases, with its clumsy fusion of tedious puzzle solving and frustrating bare-bones platforming, all taking place in a game world where Alex doesn't really belong in. Sega was clearly going through the motions with this cartridge, showing the first signs of their waning interest in supporting the Master System in the US, which we'll certainly see bear out over the following episodes. As for HighTech World, there's really no reason to fire this cartridge up, since both action fans and adventure enthusiasts have far better options to choose from. And fans of Alex Kidd always have Miracle World to turn to.